everyone, Vonnie here, and today I'm just going to do another ramble of thoughts because that's just what's been going on in my head. So today I'm thinking about, first off, let me apologize for the sound. I have my dehumidifier going. My witchy room is in my basement and it's been raining for the past few days, so the basement is a little moist, just a little bit. It's not pleasant. It's really not pleasant. So I have the dehumidifier going, so if you hear that hum, that's what it is. If I sound like I'm breathing heavier than usual, it's because I am. I am sick. I've been sick for the past week and a half, and I'll probably be sick for a few more days. My kids are starting to get sick from me being sick, so we have that going. But thankfully it's not anything serious. It's just a little cold. But yeah, so today I'm going to talk about boundaries in your practice. Now, a lot of people, you might think, like, what do you mean by boundaries? Like boundaries that you set specifically in your practice, like I will never do this, I will never do that, I will never do this. I know, like, a common boundary that most people have is I will never do love spells because of free will and things like that. I will never hex is another one, that I will never curse someone, which is another boundary. And boundaries are good to have because then you know what you're willing to do, and if you are steadfast in those boundaries, you feel like a good person, and you feel like the person that you're supposed to be. When those boundaries start being challenged, it can be very detrimental if you don't follow those boundaries. And over the years, boundaries can change because you are no longer the same person you were 5 years ago. So, like, for me, I have several boundaries. I've done love spells before, but I will never do love spells for anyone else or for myself. But that's because I've had a bad experience with them. I've mentioned this before, so I'm not going to go into it unless you want to know. But I've done love spells before, and it didn't go well. It didn't go the way that I had planned. So I don't want to do love spells anymore, except unless it's a self-love spell, because they can get very muddy. Things can go awry, people can get hurt, that sort of thing. Before, my boundary was I'd never curse or hex. And now I have no problem doing it to people who deserve it. So, like, if someone is being harmful to another person, especially somebody I care about, I will do a hex or a curse to stop those people. I'll try the kinder versions, like the freezer spell where you write their name and stick it in the freezer. But sometimes you gotta put people in a jar, and you gotta be not so nice about it. And it's mostly just to give them that kick in the pants. One boundary that might surprise you is I don't work with spirits. Now, for those who are new in my channel, you might not already know this, I have schizophrenia. I see and hear and feel things that aren't there. And sometimes those things can be very scary. One of the tactile hallucinations that I have, where I know I need to go get assistance immediately, is when I feel little bugs crawling through around my body. When it gets worse, I can actually see the bugs, and they're almost like ticks. Not quite spiders, but they are arachnids of some sort, and I can see them crawling all over my body, and I feel them, and I'm sitting there scratching and trying to get that feeling off, and smacking myself and everything, just trying to get these bugs off. And it sucks. Sometimes I hear voices, and they're not very nice. I've had some that have requested I do very terrible things to my family, and I've never given in to the voices, thankfully. I've been strong enough to overcome that, but it's still there, and it can, like, it's constant noise, and sometimes it's just noise. It's like I'm in a crowded room. I can't exactly pinpoint the conversation, but I can hear everything. And So I don't work with spirits. I don't work with entities. I do a lot of visualization, but I don't call anything to me. And if anything does come to me, I don't acknowledge it. I have set that boundary. That boundary is there because with my schizophrenia, it can be very hard to differentiate what's spiritual and what's hallucination. Maybe I hallucinate because I'm spiritual. Who knows? I had one coworker one year ask me if I thought I had schizophrenia because I do tarot cards. And people believe that. So if you think that, that's on you. I don't care. I was schizophrenic. I started having hallucinations at the age of 8, and I wasn't pagan until I was about 13, 14 years old. So there's a gap. I know what I see, and I know how I feel, and it has nothing to do with my choice in religion and spiritual path. So I have that boundary, and I've set that boundary, and it's a good boundary for me particularly, because if spirit is trying to communicate with me, I might see omens. I'll ask for an omen, like a bird call or something. One time I was having a really rough time financially and just in life in general. A woodpecker came into the basement. How that woodpecker even got in here, I have no idea. But then it just disappeared. We saw it. We saw it flying through the basement. We're like, how did you get in here? All of the windows are locked. All of the windows are closed, and the door from the outside into the basement is closed. So we have no idea how the woodpecker got in here. There's probably a hole somewhere that we don't know. But there was a woodpecker, and a woodpecker is a good omen. It means things will start getting better. So I see those messages from spirit, I take into account. But if I'm seeing like a vision or even dreams, that's a good way to get a hold of me, for lack of a better term. But for most part, I don't work with spirits because with my mental health, it can get out of hand. So that's my main boundary. My other boundary is I won't do tarot readings for other people unless I know them. And even then, I'll say no, depending on what it is. I have some friends who are like, oh, your readings are very accurate. I like it. It works really well. And they'll ask me like once in a blue moon. But I've had friends who like every month, oh, I need a reading, I need a reading, I need a reading. And it gets very exhausting. And I'm still struggling with not using too much of my own energy, because I do intuitively as well, not using too much of my own energy to read the cards and then getting exhausted and having to recharge all over again just because this person is exhausting. And I've had friends like that where you give them advice mundanely and they don't follow it and they feel like they need a tarot reading. I've had friends like that. So I put a boundary of I'll do a tarot reading on myself when I need it, but not like every day, maybe once a month. I'm doing once a month oracle readings now on the full moon, just a simple message for the universe, from the universe kind of deal. But I've made that boundary of when I see it necessary, then I'll do it. But it's good to have those boundaries because it keeps your sanity and it keeps your energy, because things can get draining, especially if you're like me and everything is exhausting. But anyway, I've rambled on way too long. I hope you guys are having a great day. Please tell me, what boundaries have you set in your practice? Like, what do you do? Like, what will you never do? Or what things do you do a little differently? I'd love to hear it. I hope you have a great day. Brightest blessings.